Like I can bring I I can bring 95-year-old Vermont citizens to Canada to go purchase their insulin, you know? Like in his mind, he's like, oh man, we'll be able to get, if I'm the employee of the month for the DNC, they will maybe consider card check. Okay. They will not. They despise you, Bernie. It's fine. You know, I get it. Maybe on principle, like you're like, oh, I want to defend Kamala Harris, but you don't have to go this far. Okay. You don't have to go this far. You don't have to. It just doesn't make any sense, dog. You are literally, he's a politician, not a political commentator. It's his job to fall in line when the Democrats need him. Dude, I know that. I'm factoring that into the calculation. I'm a political commentator who understands the position or the predicament that Bernie Sanders is in. But even in that circumstance, you don't have to you don't have to do this. You know, this is not a grenade you have to dive on, okay? Like, it's just, what are you doing? He literally, I think he thinks I'll get card check before I die. Like, I will get like one crumb of like pro-labor policy in the administration before I die. So I'm just going to do everything I can.
Senator, before I let you go, I do have to ask you about her recent endorsements by two people who are not progressives at all. Of course, I'm talking about Dick and Liz Cheney. This week, they said they're going to support her. They're going to vote for her. It's worth noting, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney voted with former President Trump more than 90% of the time, was quite critical when President Biden picked her as his running mate. Would you welcome seeing Liz Cheney out on the campaign trail?
Like, Liz Cheney was like anti-abortion not that long ago. Like, how did we just like drop that? She is the daughter of a demon. Okay. She's the daughter of a goddamn demon. She was literally anti-abortion openly. And I think she still is. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Okay. She has no constituency whatsoever. She cheered for the Dobbs decision. Her dad is even worse, okay? This man has also cooked Liz Cheney before. Taking national security advice from a Cheney has already caused irreparable damage to our country. We don't need any more thanks. I don't think this is Bernie Sanders tweeting this, by the way. I think this is Bernie Sanders' comms team tweeting this, okay? Key question for Elizabeth Warren today. Which American cities and how many American citizens are you willing to sacrifice for your policy of forcing the U.S. to absorb a nuclear attack before we can strike back? You know, Hassan, it's okay to defeat fascism just for its own sake. Defeat fascism? Dude, what are you talking about? Dick Cheney, straight up, and I mean this in all sincerity, is an infinitely bigger fascist than Donald Trump. Okay? That's not even a question. Donald Trump's 4 years in office caused a lot of harm, okay? Both globally, but certainly domestically. And having said that, it still did not meet the George W. Bush administration. And this is something that a lot of liberals, I think, forgot about, because George W. Bush was like exchanging chocolate with like Michelle Obama. And there is this like weird, well, not weird, unfortunately, expected tendency of people to liberals specifically to like whitewash former war criminals and their background. Dick Cheney is responsible for the death of millions, okay? Millions, tens of millions of people displaced. The war on terror, domestic policies such as the Patriot Act, like these are all the Cheney admin. The unitary executive principle that Donald Trump took advantage of as well was like almost single-handedly written by Dick Cheney and his loyalists. What the fuck are you talking about? Dick Cheney is literally worse than Donald Trump, okay? Dick Cheney is a worse fascist than Donald Trump. Whoa, goddamn. No, it's fine. It's all good. They're going crazy. Hi. Why does Dick Cheney bad mean Bernie should bash Kamala accepting an endorsement? No, Bernie shouldn't bash Kamala accepting an endorsement. Do you think that there's only two speeds here? Do you think that he could have just said something like, oh, I don't really care about Dick Cheney or Liz Cheney? As a matter of fact, these are people who have caused irreparable harm to American democracy and caused so much destabilization globally. I do not care. I guess even they hate Donald Trump. Whatever. Moving on, you know? Drop it, honey. Honey, no. Drop it. No, that's not your bone. You're going to get into trouble if you take that bone. Kai's going to fight you.
Real?
Well, Kristen, what I think Dick and Liz Cheney are saying.
The only reason why they are not supporting Trump is because he failed at his coup where Cheney and Bush were successful in theirs. Yeah, that's another really funny aspect of Dick Cheney and like George W. Bush as a ticket to begin with, which is that like they did successfully pull off what Donald Trump failed to do in Florida. So like that's the other part that liberals have, I guess, forgotten, which is denying American democracy from happening when they stole the election in 2000, which is why it's like, God, liberals have no coherent worldview. It is very frustrating to have to consistently deal with this idiotic nonsense on a regular fucking basis. That's why I go back to the same principle. It's like, I hate Republicans. You don't, okay? If you find yourself being like, well, I don't understand. Why is this such a big problem? Like, what the fuck do you mean? It's like, dude, did you forget? Like, these people fucked you over. They ruined your life. They ruined American lives, okay? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. They did the January 6th thing without actually doing January 6th. They did lawfare and were able to successfully pull it off. Actually, they did do January 6th in the same exact way. They had the Brooks Brothers riot. That was January 6th, but in Florida. What the fuck are we talking about? They literally did do January 6th, just in Florida, okay? Oh my God. Oh my God. They were just more competent back then. That's it. And the guys that did January 6th are now on the Supreme Court of the United States. Obviously, the Supreme Court of the United States, even back then, actually funded and helped the Brooks Brothers riot from actually even taking place. Okay. So did Jeb Bush, governor of Florida at the time, brother of George W. Bush. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. It is so weird. It is so odd. Why be upset about that when you can blame third-party voters as to why Al Gore lost? Yeah. George W. Bush competent? Yes. The George W. Bush Republican Party was more competent than the Trump Republican Party. It's true.
Is that in this existential moment in American history, it's not just issues. Cheney and I agree on nothing, no issues. But what we do believe in is that the United States should retain its democratic foundations.
Does Cheney agree with that? Does Dick Cheney believe that? Are you insane? Bernie, you were there, okay? First of all, you were there when America was invented. You were there when racism was invented. And you, of course, were there when Cheney definitely did not care about that at all. You should know better. He does not care about preserving American democracy. Oh my God, Bernie Sanders. What are you saying, Bernie Sanders?
And it's not just Cheney. I think there is a significant number of Republicans who say, well, you know, I may not agree with the vice president on this issue or that issue, but I cannot support somebody who's a pathological liar, somebody who fomented a insurrection to overthrow the election return. So I applaud the Cheneys for their courage in defending democracy. Obviously, on all the issues, we have very different points of view.
All right.
Including defending democracy. What is happening? Oh my God. Dude, he got hit with the stroke gun. Remember when he was running? He got hit with the stroke gun. It's the Fetterman stroke gun. Remember, he had a stroke too, okay? And noticeably more pro-Israel after that, and noticeably pro-establishment after that. I think the CIA got to him, okay? I think the CIA stroke gun that makes you more pro-Israel and pro-establishment Democrats got him, okay? Yeah, he had a heart attack during the campaign, if you remember. And this came out of that heart attack like harder than ever, which was crazy. It was actually shocking how with it he was post that heart attack. It turns out the CIA heart attack gun got him and made him even more pro-Israel and made him even more pro-establishment Democrat. Anyway, God, they're going to rip Kamala to shreds, dude. Hasan, stop doing Bernie like that. You know he means even extremists like her actually voting for Kamala. Kamala. Despite disagreeing with her, it's a good point to make overall to show how bad Trump is. Adolf Hitler Okay. Adolf Hitler. Wow. Even Adolf Hitler thinks Trump is bad, is not the argument that you think you're crafting. Okay. What the Dick Cheney is worse than Donald Trump. This does not mean Donald Trump is good. It just means that's how bad Dick Cheney is. Please stop. What the I'm losing my mind, dude. General election poll from Skibbity Strategies Hawk to a polling. Thanks, chatter. You dingus.
That fear about democracy, shared by a handful of Republicans, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney and her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Boo! Animals. Okay. Both of these people. The Democratic Party is ridiculous for even like spending 3.5 seconds on these endorsements. Okay. These endorsements are not going to get you a tremendous number of voters. Okay. They're not. These are both people who have zero constituencies. Okay. Anytime I hear someone in the chat was saying, Hasan, when I saw the Cheney endorsement, I was reminded of your rant. Does anyone have the rant of me talking about how Democrats love Republicans post DNC, like on the last day of DNC when it was popping off? That's what it is.
A once unthinkable move, the conservative former vice president now endorsing Harris, saying Trump can never be trusted with power again.
You have many Republicans out there who are saying, well, we're not going to vote for him, but we will write someone else in. And I think that this time around, that's not enough.
Oh, here it is. That actually hates Republicans, okay? The only motherfucker that actually hates Republicans, okay? I'm gonna say it. I'm saying it, dude. I think Democrats don't hate Republicans as much as I do, okay? They love saying, oh, I guess you want to vote for Trump then. But like, dude, you don't hate Republicans. You want them in your party. You desperately advocate for them to come to your party. You literally have them at your convention. You have them at your convention. You have them come and speak at your convention. You literally have their loyal soldiers come speak at your convention, the border guards, the cops. Like, you love them. You want to the Republicans. You want to hug the Republicans. You want to kiss the Republicans. You want to be Republican. You want to be Republican. You're just a Republican. I hate Republicans. You don't. You want to fuck them and you want to suck them. Okay? So stop with this bullshit. I had to be whisper screaming because, unfortunately, I had to be whisper screaming because I was in a hotel room. The whisper yelling makes 10-10 my favorite rant. It's just, it is what it is, you know? They love Republicans. That's what the Democrats love. They love it.
Enough that it's important to actually cast a vote for Vice President Harris.
Trump is now here at Mar-a-Lago. He heads to Pennsylvania for the debate tomorrow, and he is preparing more than he's letting on, holding those informal policy sessions with advisors, but also with former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who challenged Harris on the debate stage back in 2019. Also involved in his debate prep, we are told, is Congressman Matt Gaetz, who has been firing questions at Trump on some of the tougher issues, including his legal troubles and his position on abortion.
When a liberal is abused, he says, thank God they didn't beat me. When he is beaten, he says, thank God they didn't kill him. When he is killed, he will thank God that his immortal soul has been delivered from its mortal clay. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. I call him Lenin. Some people call him Lenin. I call him Lenin. Comrade Kamala Harris and Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. I've been a staunch supporter of Kamala Harris since Liz Cheney endorsed her.
Welcome back. And joining me now is Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
You make me
My
so
pleasure.
sad.
Well, it's great to have you here. I do want to dive in by talking about the economy, likely to be one of the big topics at Tuesday night's debate. This week, of course, as you know, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Please speak on the invasion of the Balkans by the Ottomans. I don't know who this guy is, but he has so much aura and riz. This guy's awesome. I think he wants me to speak on the invasion of this is a Balkan chatter. We got a Balkan Maoist in the chat who recognizes that the Balkans were better under Ottoman rule. That's what I think is going on here. Okay. To which I say, listen, chatter, At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And regardless of where you're at, unless you're like in Bosnia, in which case you probably won't see ads, you're going to see 3 minutes of ads if you're not there. Yeah. So if you're not in Bosnia, then you need to subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Why are you so silent on the fall of the Mongol Khanate? I don't want to think about that. That makes me sad. It hurts deeply when I think about such sad realities, you know? The Golden Horde will rise once again. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Turan now, Turan tomorrow, Turan forever.
Harris unveiled more of her economic policies, which included a 28% capital gains tax for top earners. It really marks a big break from President Biden, who has proposed a 40% tax on top earners. Of course, when you were running for president, you proposed a near 60% tax on top income earners. Do you believe that this particular policy position is a mistake by Vice President Harris?
Well, look, this is what I believe, Kristen. We live in a nation today that has more income and wealth inequality than has ever existed in the history of the United States. People on top, the billionaire class, doing phenomenally well. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Gap between the rich and the poor growing wider. What I believe is that we got to take on the greed of the billionaire class and say, yes, you know what, guys? When we got 600,000 people sleeping out on the streets, when people can't afford to send their kids to college, you know what? You are going to start paying your fair share of taxes. So I think dealing with the massive level of income and wealth inequality through a progressive tax system is exactly what we've got to do.
So do you believe that 28% is enough, or should she come up? Should she boost that number?
I would go higher than that. Look, when you got 3 people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, and when billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses, yeah, you could substantially raise taxes on the billionaire class and the people on top. But Kristen, it's not only the need for real progressive tax reform. What we have got to address is that while there have been important gains economically under President Biden and Vice President Harris, much more needs to be done. People cannot afford the high cost of health care. Elderly people can't afford dental care despite being on Medicare. So I think what the vice president needs is a strong agenda that speaks to working people, that says, you know what? At a time of so much inequality, we are on the side of working families, and we're prepared to take on the big money interests who today have so much political and economic power in our country.
Well, let me ask you about some of her ties to big business. Top Silicon Valley companies and big name venture capitalists have reportedly been in close communication with the Harris campaign. I'm talking about Mark Cuban, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. From a practical standpoint, a lot of her supporters argue those ties might make sense. She's been accused of being too liberal, for example, by Republicans. Are you concerned at all about the ties to those big names, those top earners?
Dude, rich bastards hoarding wealth and complain the economy shit, make it make sense. Oh, I thought you were talking about Bernie for a second. I was like, come on, dude.
Well, Kristen, what you're really touching on is maybe the most important issue. And that is whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you should be concerned about the impact of the disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United that today allows billionaires, whether they're Elon Musk and the Republicans or whether they are Democratic billionaires, to play a very, very outsized role in the political process. Look, you have one vote. The average American has one vote, but billionaires can start a super PAC and put hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars into defeating the people they don't like and supporting the people they do like. That is not democracy. That is oligarchy. And I would hope that every American, regardless of your political persuasion, says we got to get rid of the Citizens United and return to a nation where one person has one vote, and that's democracy, not billionaires buying elections. If your question is, am I concerned about billionaire influence over the Democratic Party? I surely am, just as I am over the Republican Party.
Let me zoom out a little bit. You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
This is like me having like a Nicholas J. Fuentes to Donald Trump moment almost. Obviously, you know, we're not monstrous pieces of shit nor fascist, but like watching Bernie Sanders say, oh, she's leaning on this stuff and going to the center because she wants to win votes is so stupid, because it cuts away at the major it cuts away at all the polling he's conducted. You know what I mean? Well, oh, okay, so you gotta abandon popular progressive policies. Got it. Like, then why did you run for president? Like, oh no, her principles are there. She just wants to be pragmatic and win elections. Yeah, that's the lie that the Democratic Party tells the liberals who watch media. That's the lie they told about you, Bernie.
My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all.
Like, he shouldn't say the first half of that ever. He should literally be like, or if he's going to say that, he shouldn't use that as like she's trying to be pragmatic. Okay? He should be like, this is the same exact problem that Democrats who are well-intentioned run into, where they think the broader electorate is actually less popular. I mean, the broader electorate is not genuinely demanding change, and that progressive policies are less popular than they actually are. You don't have to glaze her and be like, oh no, she's progressive, but she's like being pragmatic. Just say that they're doing the wrong thing.
Of our people, despite spending twice as much per capita. That is why I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another.
Not only are you not a piece of shit like Fuentes, you also didn't make the mistake of idolizing Bernie to the point of abandoning your own ideals and analysis. Of course, I would never do that.
Approach toward moving toward universal health care. But again, I think on issues like expanding Medicare, by expanding Social Security and lifting the cap on taxable income that the rich put in so we can raise Social Security benefits, the need to raise the minimum wage from a starvation 7.25 minimum wage to a living wage. I think if you campaign on those issues, raising taxes on billionaires, you know what? She's going to win, and I think she could win big.
Well, let me just ask you then.
I don't think you're being fair to Bernie here. His job is to get Kamala elected and spread his economic ideals, and that's the only reason he's on the show. He's not going to disparage Democrats, even if he thinks that, because it counters his goal. No. Then he should never put out polling that shows that popular policies or progressive policies are popular, because that cuts away at the argument that the Democrats are making consistently. That is a direct question about whether or not Kamala Harris has abandoned her fucking principles. The answer to that should be to openly state what it is. Progressive policies are popular. Kamala Harris does not seem to think so, despite all of the evidence that points to the exact opposite of that reality. Here I have the evidence right in front of me. I conducted these fucking polls. I paid for these polls to be conducted. Here are some of the most popular policies. Kamala should run for those policies rather than against those policies.
Big picture, do you still consider Vice President Kamala Harris to be progressive, Senator?
I do. Look, she is not where I am. But I think, for example, when she talks about making the child tax.
Progressive policies are not very popular, hence why half the country is voting for a blood and soil fascist. Yeah, you're right. We should just do blood and soil fascism then, huh? No, you idiot. Things that actually materially improve people's lives, regardless of whether they're fascist or not, okay, are objectively popular even amongst those fascists. The goal is to run a good enough campaign that they forget about the blood and soil fascism and they go, well, at least this person can put more money in my fucking pocket. That's the point. And also, if you do end up following through on those promises and you objectively improve people's material conditions, then they're less likely to be blood and soil fascists to begin with. What's so funny about what you're saying is that like Republicans love Bernie Sanders. Okay. Republicans love Bernie Sanders. You know that, right? Like most Republicans like Bernie Sanders or love Bernie Sanders. He is consistently the most popular politician. Not really. Yes, really. Look at his approval rating. Not a bad take. Oh my God. I think you are looking at this too simply. New Florida poll by UNF-A rating, July 24, 27. Donald Trump, 49 to Kamala Harris, 42. Rick Scott, 47%. Debbie McCarsell-Powell, 43. Legalize recreational marijuana amendment, 64. Limit government interference with abortion amendment, 69. What's your theory for why Trump is running 10 plus points ahead of down ballot GOP who have his same positions? Charisma. That's it. In a lot of places where he's running 10 plus points ahead, by the way, the people that he has are awful. The people that he has are awful. Like you're talking about the exploded troop guy in Nevada. You know what I mean? Like never won a single race, just like genuinely crazy. You got people like Carrie Lake, just a nut job, an objectively unpopular nut job. So how can you say that Bernie's one of the most How can you say that Bernie is one of the most popular politicians, yet bro can't even get past the primaries? Not saying I disagree. Yeah, it doesn't matter because the primaries are completely captive by the Democratic Party's most loyal fan base. That's it. It's the literal MSNBC watchers that go out and vote in the primaries. How many people do you know that voted in the primaries? I door knocked during the primaries. I'm gonna tell you right now, there were a shit ton of people who were like, I love Bernie. They just didn't even know a primary was happening. I think a lot of you forget, like, the primary process is, first and foremost, the primary process is not like legally bound regardless. Like the Democratic Party has actually, in the courts, defended their position to be able to put whoever the fuck they want at the top of that ticket by the end of the convention if they want to. That's why we had the superdelegates process too, on top of everything else. But ultimately, and that's why Kamala Harris is currently the presidential candidate and not Joe Biden. Something to consider there, right? Beyond that, I ran the top of the hour ad break already. Please shut the fuck up. When I say Bernie Sanders is consistently one of the most popular politicians, I'm simply talking about his approval rating, chat. Like I'm not pulling this out of my asshole. I'm just stating facts. I know that liberals love to shit on Bernie Sanders, but that is the reality. I don't know why you're like arguing against that. Like, this doesn't mean across the board that all conservatives are in love with Bernie Sanders. I'm simply stating that in spite of everything else, Bernie Sanders is still one of the most popular politicians. Okay? His popular approval rating is at 54%. On the Democratic Party front, he's after Barack Obama, dude. Wait, who's number one then? Jimmy Carter? Oh. Bernie's not really popular with Republicans, but he's the most popular Democrat among Republicans. Yes. And that is in spite of like the unimaginable amounts of anti-Bernie like sentiment in mainstream media overall. Okay. Why is he not popular with Democrats? I'm interested in your take. He is popular with Democrats. He's popular with Democrats across the board as well. That's why he's number 4 on this list, chat. The only difference is he's popular with Democrats as well. He's just not popular with Democrats that go out and vote in the primaries, which is the backbone of the Democratic Party, the most loyal, most trusted, most reliable Democratic Party voters. That's why I kept repeating. That's why I kept repeating a very important fact about the uncommitted campaign. The uncommitted movement campaign was really important because those are lifelong team sport Dems that are voting in the primaries. Bernie's method of bringing out, similar to Donald Trump, bringing out people who normally don't vote is still untested in the general as it stands. I still believe that it would work. The problem is Bernie would never, or a Bernie style candidate would never be able to make it out the cut. They would never be able to make it out the primary. Does that make sense? And if you don't make it out the primary, and if you can't get to the general, then you can never test these. Then you can never test strategy. I guess Obama did it in 2008, so he did actually prove that method. But that's it.
Credit. Permanent. And you know, we did that in the American Rescue Plan. We lowered childhood poverty by 40%. Kristen, we should not have, as the richest country on earth, one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the world. When she talks about building 3 million.
You know how the Dems always ratchet right? If it was reversed and the Dems had successfully run the country for a while, the Republicans would ratchet left? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they would. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Now, this doesn't mean that they still wouldn't be to the right of the Democratic Party. Of course they would be. But yeah, they would. Look at abortion. Look at abortion. Look at Obamacare. Look at Obamacare. Donald Trump ran on abolishing Obamacare. Where is it at now? Why does he need to talk about it? It's not like it's abolished. Where's that at? Where's that energy for Obamacare?
In units of affordable housing, that's a big deal because we have a major housing crisis in America. You know, when she talks about passing the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions, that's a big deal because we have to expand the union movement so the workers get decent wages. So yes, her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
Senator, before I let you go, I do have to ask you about her recent endorsements by two people who are not progressives at all. Of course, I'm talking about.
This was the worst part, and we watched it already, and it cooked me.
About Dick and Liz Cheney this week. They said they're going to support her. They're going to vote.
We are just one day away from the ABC 2024 presidential debate, and Trump is aiming to define Kamala Harris's far-left record. This as 28% of likely voters say when it comes to Harris, they need to learn more, compared to just 9% for Donald Trump. Here with...
That's not good for Trump. That's not good for Trump. That's the reason why when he got almost domed, people were so firmly committed. People were so firmly committed to their position on Trump that like it didn't even move the needle.
To help set all of this up, set up the stage, Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and Charlie Hurt. Good morning to both of you.
Hi there.
Hi. Okay, Tammy. Good morning, Charlie.
Charlie Hurt looks like a buddy cop, like a alcoholic detective. So disheveled all the time. I don't know how. It's just, am I wrong? Doesn't he just straight up look like a disheveled alcoholic detective who's just like always like, oh man, oh God, I'm getting too over the shit.
Tammy, I'll start with you. What does Donald Trump need to do to focus really on her background, her policies? Because clearly 1/3 of the American voters don't know what she stands for.
Yes, and I think that's key. And this is why you suddenly saw Kamala Harris put up some positions, which frankly also look like word salads on her website. But he needs to focus on, as everyone is saying, and he understands the issues. That's why he's running. He's running because of the issues. But I think that it's key because this is also about transparency.
So Trump voters are 100% set. Have you met a Trump voter? In 2020 and in 2016, the overwhelming majority of Trump voters were voting for Trump. The overwhelming majority of Biden voters and Hillary Clinton voters in 2016 alike, by basically the same reverse percentages, 60 to 30 broadly, okay, were voting against Trump. Trump voters are locked in, dude. They've been locked in. That's also partially the reason why Trump is outperforming his down ballot races. And the hope for the Republican Party is that those guys that, you know, don't know or give a fuck about senators or whatever, they go out to vote for Trump and then they just like tick all the Republican boxes when they're in the voting booth. That's the hope. Because we know what happened when he wasn't on the voting booth, when he wasn't on the ballot. 2022 is what happened when he wasn't on the ballot. At a time when the Republicans, all things considered, should have wiped the floor, okay, in the midst of one of the worst inflation crises that like Americans had experienced in quite a while, when midterm elections are seen as like a poll for the performance of the sitting president, that red tide turned into a red puddle.
Transparency. What is her problem?